Welcome. If you've found your way here, there's a reason. Maybe cancer has touched your life or someone you love. And maybe beneath everything that's happening, you can feel this isn't just a physical journey. There's something deeper here. This space is for that. Here, we honour the medical path and we also honour the inner one because mindset is medicine. My name is Giselle Gamby and I'm your host. And I am a cancer coach. You are not alone. Welcome to Cancer and Courage. Welcome to the Cancer and Courage podcast. I am just so delighted. My heart is so happy to be with Julie Gabrielson today. Julie or Jules sent me an email a few weeks ago through a very good friend of yours and somebody that I know through social media, Lynette Gordon, who suggested that Julie reach out to me because she has written a book called, and it's on my Kindle, Cancer and Courage, a true story of grit, gratitude, and a little bit of rebellion. And the moment that I read Julie's email and the title of her book, I thought, we must meet. And as I said to you when I met you, I do get a lot of requests to come onto the podcast. And, some I don't get a feeling at all. And I've had the Intuitive Pull podcast. There were many times I didn't get a feeling at all. Whereas with you, it was just instant. And I emailed you straight away and we met last week and here we are. Welcome. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you, Giselle. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, wonderful. We were just chatting before, saying that, sometimes you meet people and, we've just met each other, last week or week before last week, I think it was, and yet there's this connection that feels beyond the little time that we've known each other. And I read your book and I have to say that whilst I got to know you in our meet and greet, I really feel like I got to know you through the book. Yeah. And I'm just going to say one more thing and then I'm going to start asking you questions. I finished reading the book this morning and I was preparing for this interview and the word inspiring came and I thought, no, that's not the right word. Actually don't want this interview or even your book to inspire people. I actually want it to paradigm shift people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That means everything to me, receiving that feedback.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Because you never thought you were a writer.
No, never in a million years did I think I would write a book.
Yeah. And I just said to you before, there's 50 chapters.
There's a lot of chapters, yes.
Yeah, and they're short.
Yeah.
And every time I turned the page to the next chapter, I loved the chapter title of each. It was like, oh, every time. All right, so let's get into. I would love you just let's just do the facts to start with.
Okay.
Like, let's do the lay of the land. You've been on a cancer journey for 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just, from a factual point of view, and if there's anything you want to throw in, please do, just lay out your cancer journey, and then we'll go into the guts of your response to your cancer journey.
Love to. So I'm originally from Perth. I live on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland now, but I'm originally from Perth. And I had a great life, married, good job, and led a very healthy life. And I was 46 and I had studied holistic counselling for a couple of years, and it sort of opened me up to self-awareness and intuition and things like that. And after I had done the training, I would be at work and it was busy and stressful, and it was like I felt this invisible hand in my back pushing me forward and this voice coming in saying, this isn't you anymore, you need to get out of here. And of course, then my mind, which back then was very strong, my mind would come in and say, you can't leave here. It's just so good. The pay is great and great bonuses. And so I'd push that feeling away. And it happened quite a few times. And And then one night I'm laying in bed and this voice came in and said, check your breasts. And I never did that. So I followed it and I did it, and I found a pea-shaped lump in my right breast. And of course, it's nighttime, you're on your own, you go into terror, and then you are on the road of discovering what that is. And so that was my first iteration of it. And so, of course, with a lot of people that go through this, or most people, you have a wake-up call that goes with it. You know, what am I doing with my life? And so that's where the decision came that I needed to get out of Perth, and we moved to Queensland. And it's not been easy at all, but I just feel so drawn to where I live. And so then life just continued on. And then in 2015, a similar experience happened. I was sitting at the laptop one Sunday morning and this voice said, check your breasts. And I thought, oh. So I did, and I found not one, not two, but 3 lumps. And so my heart just fell through the floor. And again, I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me, not again. And it's Sunday, there's nothing I can do. So you spend the next 24 hours worrying. And so it was another iteration. And so really since then, since 2015, it's really been ongoing. Like I've not really had a break since then. And sadly, my marriage didn't survive. Now I'm so close to my ex-husband and adore his wife, and we get on really, really well. But it was hard, you know, so I not just lost, you know, I was going through what I was going through, but then I lost my best friend, shared everything with him. And so that was just such a huge loss. And then, you know, a lot's happened over the last few years, and it's really brought me to where I am today. And as you said, out of all of this, did I ever think I would write a book? Not in a million years.
Yeah, yeah. So after the 2015, you found the 3 lumps in your breast. Then you found, where did it go next?
So from there, I decided, my family and my friends really wanted me to go down the traditional road of chemotherapy and all of that, and it just didn't feel right for me. Like my instinct was no. And I really wanted to try the natural road. So I worked with a natural therapist for 10 years. 3 years I worked with him and did everything you could possibly imagine, supplements, juicing, detoxing, the whole thing. And unfortunately, it didn't give me the results that I was hoping for. So from there, I had it in my lymph nodes. I ended up in, I think, 2018, I had a mastectomy on the right side, and then I had complications. So I think in like 7 years, I've had 8 surgeries or something ridiculous. And so from there, it went into my T8 vertebra, then it went into my lungs, and then in 2024, and my spine and pelvis. And then in 2024, I found out as a Friday afternoon surprise that I had a golf ball sized tumour in my cerebellum, which they call your small brain at the back. So told on the Friday afternoon, have to be in hospital over the weekend, take it out on Monday. And so that was a roller coaster. And so, yeah, so that's sort of how it's transitioned from 2015 to today.
Yeah, it's a massive journey. Massive
it is a
journey.
massive journey. Yeah. And then I found out a few weeks ago that I've got another tiny little one in my brain, in the cerebellum, and then I've got 3 new ones that have shown up in my chest.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing all of that. I find it, one of the things that I found amazing about the book is that, you know, you didn't write the book because everything was wrapped up in a nice little neat bow.
No, not at all.
And even that is significant. Yes, even that is significant, that you still decided to write a book. You still decided to put everything that you've learned, you know, into on paper, and you didn't need to be, you know, perfect first in order to share your story. I find that quite remarkable, and I think that's even a lesson in itself.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, like I was really out of like. So if we talk about the book, when I it would probably be, well, the friend, my darling friend who introduced me to you, she's been saying to me for about 6 years, she channels and receives messages. And she said, they're telling me that you need to write. And my first thought would be, I'm not a writer. And I would dismiss it. And she kept telling me this over about 6 years. And then about 3 years ago, I sort of started to think, well, I feel like I do have something to say, but I couldn't determine like how that was going to look. And so about 2 years ago, before the brain tumor, I think I just started thinking, well, why don't I just jot some things down? And I didn't think I'd be able to remember everything, but it's funny how when you start putting focus onto something, I'd be out and something would just pop into my head and I'd quickly jot it into my phone. And then it was last year, and she said it to me again, and I just said immediately, oh, but I'm not a writer. And then another thought popped in that said, how do you know you've never even tried? And I thought, wow, that's ridiculous that I've been telling myself for all these years and I don't know that I can't write. So I just started writing my story. I didn't Google it on how to structure a book. And I just put it together. And then about 3/4 of the way through, I didn't have a lot to finish it. I was introduced to a self-publishing coach, Julie Postance, who's amazing. And it was that sort of, after talking to her, and she's like you, she doesn't work with anyone who approaches her, but she felt really strongly to work with me, which I felt very grateful for. And so I finished the book, and then she helped me with an editor and a book designer, and then getting it onto Amazon. So I was, when it was launched, I was terrified because I have shared, as you would know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I haven't held back.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you write your story and then you put it out there, and it's like, oh my God, people are going to read it now. And what are they going to think? And are they going to think you're crazy? And so it's an interesting experience. And I was worried I had too many chapters, but the feedback I have received is people like it because it's just like you just do a quick chapter here and a quick chapter there. And so, yeah, so there I was thinking I couldn't do it. And then, and I wanted to call it I'm Still Here.
Mm.
But it ended up being called Dancing with Cancer.
Yeah. And I remember when we caught up, for the first time to meet, I didn't know that that's what you wanted to call it. And one of the things that I reflected back to you was,
Yes.
Despite the 18-year journey that continues to appear in different places in your body, isn't the miracle that you are still here? Isn't that the miracle?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the miracles. One of the miracles. Yes. Yes. So I found that really interesting that was what I got for you. And then you said to me, oh, that's actually what I wanted to call the book.
Call it that, I know.
Yeah. Exactly. Because I don't know if somebody else in your position would still be here, given everything that you have experienced. Oh, there's so many places I want to go. So I'll go. Let's go here, and then then we'll go to the thought that I just had. So I guess the biggest takeaway when I read your book, and if I was to use my words about the underlying premise that I felt your book was telling, is that there's a before and after version of you. There's a before cancer version of Jules, and there's an after cancer or during the cancer journey version of you, and in that threshold that you've crossed, the thing that was just so obvious to me, despite being pummeled, you've been pummeled several times, and you've experienced pain. Like I remember reading about, after your brain surgery and not being able to go on medication, and the most severe pain that you've experienced ever. And then the mask that you had to wear when you were having the treatment. My goodness, like it was full on. But the thing that is consistently in your book is that you are so, so deeply grateful for who you have become as a result of the cancer journey.
Yes. Yes.
And in that, yes, you've experienced all the range of human emotions, and that's another thing I want to talk about in a moment. And at the same time, there is not one moment in reading your book and even in having met you last week where I have ever heard you being a victim to the cancer journey.
Mm.
So can you talk about that, please?
Sure. So I think when I first got it in 2008, like I think anyone who's gone through it, and you'll relate to this, is when you hear the words, you are terrified. Like I think you leave your body and you're floating out there somewhere looking
Yeah.
down on yourself because it's just not what anyone wants to hear. And it's just so scary. And I knew some other people at the time who were going through it. And of course, all your family and friends are terrified watching you go through this, and they are dealing with it as best they can. And of course, everyone wants to help and all of this. And so my message to everybody in the end, I think one night I just sat down and wrote an email to everybody, and I just said, look, I so appreciate all that you're offering and everything. Please ring when you feel like it or reach out. And if I feel to, I will.
Yes.
But please understand if I don't, I'm just processing and everything. But I said, this isn't defining who I am. I am not cancer. It's just a challenge I'm going through at the moment, not realizing that it was going to challenge for so many years. And people were great, but I was very clear from the beginning that it didn't define who I was. And I think what that does is it sort of helps you to not fall into the victim. Like there's a saying, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And even when you go through an illness or disease, there's so much to gain from it if you are willing to look. Like I remember sitting in bed 2 days after having the brain tumor removed, and I was just sitting there and I just thought, what gifts can I find so far? And a big one was the fact that it was found in the first place, because it truly was found by accident.
Mm.
I got told that if it hadn't been found by accident, it would have been fatal in 6 months. And so there's been a few times where I could have died, and obviously I haven't. So, yeah, so I think it's just, it doesn't define you. I know people who have just let it consume them, and it's all they can think about and it's all they can talk about. And I find that quite sad, because you then are missing out on wonderful things that are happening around you. Like I love still being interested. I'm very interested in what people are doing and what they're up to, and hearing the wonderful things that, adventures and things like that. And I don't want to be that person when they see you coming that goes, oh, quick, here she comes, the lady with cancer that's going to talk about it. I don't want to be that person. So I'm not one who has ever really liked the focus on me. I've never liked that. And so, but I felt very strongly with the cover of the book, when I looked at other books in my genre, that I found the covers quite depressing and sad. And I didn't want my book to be that, because I wanted people to read it and go, okay, like positivity and to be uplifting. And so I felt very strongly that I needed to be on the cover, and I wanted to look healthy and vibrant, because that's how I try and live my life, regardless of what's going on inside. And so, so not being a victim to me is one of the biggest things that will help you get through this.
Yes, yes. And not once, and I mean, you wrote about it explicitly, not once have you treated cancer like something that you have to fight. You don't believe in, there's a whole, I'm going to swear, there's a whole fuck cancer.
Yes.
And you can understand, like I
Totally
understand, but there's not once that I felt any of that in your book where you were fighting against, and it was the enemy. You write about it explicitly in the book.
Yeah. I think probably in the beginning I was of that thought, because I was such a baby to it, I think each iteration of it that I have gone through, and I've gone through many, many iterations, as you know, it changes who you are. And for me, it's always about what can I learn from this? What can I learn from this? You know, this
Mm.
is here to teach me and help me grow you know, like, because I'm very much into who we truly are, beyond our human physical body. So in the early days, I think I did. And I then learned as I went through, and I think it was probably in the last 5 years that I sort of had the realization that those cells are part of me. And if I'm fighting those cells or battling them, I'm battling myself. And that didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So I try to love those cells and listen, because it's trying to teach me something. And the more I can sit and listen and hopefully gain awareness, that's, I think, my best chance to heal. But yeah, when I see those words like she lost the fight or he won the battle, I really don't resonate with that at all, because they are my cells. They're part of me, that, and they're unhappy and they're trying to tell me something. And you know, the positivity, I don't always succeed. Like, I can, if I get results that aren't what I really wanted, which happens a lot, I can fall in a heap. It's like being chopped off at the knees. I come home, I hibernate, I turn my phone off, I process. I'll hold a pity party where I'm the only attendee, and I can do that for a few days, and then I'll have a good talk to myself, and I'll pick myself back up, and on we go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So there's somewhere I want to go here. As I said, there's a million things, a million places I want to go to. But you've just led me to this other place. So one of the things that I received that we haven't talked about, reading your story and reading your story about your mum.
oh gosh,
Oh.
bless her heart.
And how she was medicated all of her life apart from one window
One little window.
where
Yeah.
you got to see who she really was.
Yeah, that
Right?
was just so sad. And I didn't learn about that until I was in my 40s. You know, it's back in those generations where you just didn't talk about stuff. And
Yes.
so my mum, just quickly, she lived in a rural town in WA on a farm. And when she had her second son, our middle brother, she got postnatal depression. And so you can imagine 1958,
Mm-hmm.
what did they know about it back then? She got shipped off to Perth with a 6-week-old baby, and I didn't realise that she was hospitalised and had actually gone through shock therapy. I was horrified when I found out, and it explained to me why she was always terrified as she got older about being put into hospital and being left there. And now and, you know, when I found this out, I understood why. And then she got postnatal depression again with me. And so from 1958, what saddens me the most is no doctor ever stopped and looked and thought, well, she's now 35, 40, 45, 50. She wouldn't still have postnatal depression. So let's look at how we could maybe manage this and maybe get her off the meds. And nobody ever did that. And then I think it was like the mid 2000s. And for some reason, the doctor decided to swap her medication. And as you said, I had this 1 month where she was taken off one med, where I got to meet my mum as she truly was. And it was the most amazing time. And we had these conversations that I never dreamt of having. And then sadly, because it would have created too much anxiety for her at that age then to be taken off it. So they put her on the new med, and I watched her disappear again into that sort of realm of being medicated. But it explained to me as a teenager why she wasn't emotionally available to me, you know, and I thought it was me. And then I realised later on that it wasn't me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it took me a long time to sort of not be angry at the medical profession for
Yeah. Yeah.
that was her experience in this lifetime.
Yeah. And this is what I felt with you, is that whilst your mum wasn't allowed to have emotions, to the point where, it was wrong to have emotions, it was wrong to have postnatal depression, that she had shock therapy.
Mm. Oh,
Right? It's so tragic. It's so tragic
so sad. Yeah.
that you, through the cancer journey, because it was only through the cancer journey that you got to know how to be with your emotions, And whilst you've not been a victim,
Yeah.
whilst you've not treated cancer as the enemy, um, whilst you have, what the last one of the last pieces that you wrote in your book at the end, let me just find it. That resilience, love, and hope are the truest medicines of all. So whilst you've, held cancer in this, not positivity, not false positivity, but you've held it, you've not been a victim to it, you've held it in love and hope. It hasn't meant that you haven't felt all the other emotions that come with it, which, loss and fear and grief and anger and resentment and all of that. And you've allowed yourself to feel all those feelings. Like you said, sometimes you just close the door, and you just allow yourself to fall in that heap and to feel all your feelings, all the things that your mother was never allowed to feel,
Yeah.
right? All the
Yeah.
things that your mother was made to feel wrong for feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we just know so much more now. And I think really she was such a strong woman, and I would love to have seen her live a life that reflected who she really was.
Yeah.
It just wasn't her journey in this lifetime.
Yeah.
But the emotional thing is interesting, because I do believe that disease and illness has a huge emotional part to it. And sadly, the medical profession still don't really recognize that. And so you go to a doctor and you're diagnosed with whatever, and they immediately go to treat the thing, whatever it is. But nobody ever sits down and says to you, well, let's look at why has your body created that in the first place?
Yeah.
And the emotional part, I think, is so very important. And I think I grew up in an era, like I had a father who was emotionally stunted, and I understand now, when I learnt his story growing up, I can understand why that is. But a lot of the time I had to be the adult with him. And he, I grew up just with that understanding of be a good girl and be quiet. And I didn't realize that coming into this life, I came in as an empath, and I didn't know what an empath was. And so when I was younger, I was extremely sensitive. I could pick up on what was going on around me. It was like having a whole lot of little nerve endings that picked up everything that was going on, and it really affected me. And I felt like it was my job to fix everything for everybody else and make them feel okay. And you say yes when you really want to say no, and you worry about what people think about you. And I didn't realize growing up that that's who I was. And so I think when you do grow up like that, you tend to suppress how you feel, because you put yourself second to everybody else. And so I think I spent most of my life up until I really got into self-awareness in my 30s, and probably even into my 40s, suppressing my emotions and not speaking up for myself and letting people walk all over me. And I think that's why I got it. And I think, back in 2008, when I was feeling that hand in my back and that voice saying, you need to get out of here, I think it was my message of, you're here to do something different. You need to step out of this and really find your own way, shine your light. And I just didn't see it. And I think it was just like they were saying, she's not listening. We really need to wake her up. And that's why I think I got it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do think there's a whole emotional part to it. But I still feel all of it now. I lose trust. I lose hope. I get angry. I get fed up. I get tired. I do the why, what am I not getting? But then and I don't beat myself up when I feel like that, whereas I used to. I used to say I shouldn't feel like that, don't do that, don't think that. Now I go, okay, that's just how I feel right now. Then I'll go and find something, whether it's a podcast or a book, and I just keep revisiting things, and then slowly I can sort of feel myself spiral out of the sort of low vibration feelings and pick myself back up where I'm in a better mindset, a more positive mindset. But oh gosh, Giselle, it's not easy.
Yeah.
As a
No.
lot of people would know, it's not easy.
Yeah. Especially
But
18
it's a
years.
choice. You can't You can't choose what happens to you, but you can choose how you're going to respond. But if you're having a bad day, let yourself have a bad day. It's okay. If you want to sit on the couch and watch Netflix, do that, whatever it is. It's to allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, but then help yourself to move to a better mindset, better mind frame.
That's perfect. That's perfectly said, because it is a choice in every moment, in every moment.
And sometimes you just can't do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's okay.
Exactly.
Permission.
Exactly. Perfect. Perfect. So when I look at your before and after, and, really hearing what you said about you were born as an empath, your sensitivity was finely tuned, you could read what was going on in the room, you could read what was going on in people. And at the time, because your parents had divorced and I think your brothers had moved away, you were the one that was trying to bring everybody back together, bring peace and harmony, and you felt that you were responsible for that. And then that came at a cost to you. That was before. And I believe that the empath in you, or the intuitive version of you, is one of the reasons why you're still here.
Yeah, I've never thought of it like that.
Are you serious? I mean, to me, that is just so obvious. The fact that you were lying in bed in 2008 and you felt like there was a hand on your back that said, you need to leave this version of your life and go and feel your breast, which you had never done before, and then you find a lump. I mean, that is your sensitive nature working in your favor. Because had you not found that lump, who would have known what would have happened?
No, and that's interesting. And I had never sort of seen it in that frame that you've just put it in. But yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, there's so many times, like getting that voice in 2008, getting the voice in 2015.
Right.
And then the things that have happened where my neighbour in 2015, because I was having complications, I got a serious infection, Pseudomonas. I think I probably was about 24 to 48 hours away from where I could have died from it.
Wow.
And for some reason, my neighbour's wife rang me. Her husband was a GP, and she never rang me. Like, we didn't ring each other. And she rang this morning and just said, I'm just ringing to see how you are. Something must have said to her, ring Jules and see how she is. And I said to her, look, I'm all right, but I've got this, my drain's not clear. It's got a yellow substance in it. And she said, right. And then the next minute, her husband's on the phone saying, I don't want to alarm you, but I want you to go straight to emergency. And so I did that, and I ended up in hospital for, I think, 18 days on IV antibiotics, and he saved my life.
Yes.
And then the technician who was doing an MRI on my back in 2024.
Yes.
They don't scan your head normally when they're doing that. But something must have said to him, scan her head before you do the and so he did, and found the mass, and that was on that Friday, and the next thing I know, and then finding out that would be fatal in 6. Like, it's just, and it's just being open to listening to that. Now I tune in. Like, if I tune in, is this the right thing for me to do? And if it's not, I'll say no. But when I get when I get that sort of something, I hear something like, do this, don't do that, I can go, oh, that's a bit weird. Why would I do that? And then I just go, not going to question it. I'm just going to follow the voice and do what it tells me to do.
Yes.
So I've learned the hard way to not ignore it.
Yes, exactly. And see, this is the thing. It's a superpower of yours.
Thank you.
Often there's a whole narrative out there around empaths, suffering and being and playing the victim role, actually, to being empathetic, right? There's a whole narrative, and I've never vibed with that narrative myself.
No.
And here it is a superpower of yours, to the point that it literally has saved your life several occasions, because on twice you heard the voice. Then you had the multidimensional experience. It is a multidimensional experience, right? It's not one that is just, with the rational brain. None of this was created with the rational brain, these messages, nor the perfect orchestration of your neighbor calling, nor the perfect orchestration of the radiation person scanning your brain when they should be
No,
scanning your
yeah,
back.
no.
It's a
And
super.
like, did I want to get that phone call on a Friday afternoon? Gosh, no, but it saved my life again. So
Exactly, exactly. And it's probably one of the reasons why you're still here.
I know. I sort of think to myself, well, you're obviously not done yet. You've still got something to do.
Yes, yes,
But yeah, it's just an interesting ride, that's for sure.
yes, yes. I want to go to the place where you and I spoke to before we got on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But before I go there, because I feel like that will be the completion, I think, of our conversation. Who knows? Is there something that you feel that you want to say that we haven't covered, that your intuition is telling you to say?
Yeah, I think, you know, I think I really don't like it when I hear people say, oh, that person can never change, never doesn't change its spots. That really
Oh,
upsets me because I think every being on this planet, because I do believe we are spiritual beings who come here to have a human experience and to learn and to grow. And so when I hear that, it makes me sad because everybody walking this planet can change. They can be a better version of themselves. And so growing up, I say in the book, I grew up in a bit of a judgmental, negative household. Um, and so I think as a younger version of me, I was a victim. I did think things were happening to me. And um, I was judgmental. I I was negative. I was all those things. And then when I was in my third, and I was very controlling because I think when your parents separate and you're a teenager or younger, you can become quite controlling because it's a way to feel safe. And so I had done that and I took it into my adulthood. And when you take control into your adulthood, it's not a particularly good look because really what I've come to understand is that we literally have control over nothing. You can get up in the morning, you can decide what you're going to put on that day. That's it. You could be going to a friend's for coffee, you could be going out to lunch, you could be going to work, you could be going to mind your grandkids, whatever it is. Life changes in the blink of an eye. And so, really, when I see people really trying to control their life, I feel sad because you just can't do that. Life is going to do what it does. That Friday afternoon, I was heading to my friend's to catch up with her and have a Friday afternoon vino and talk about the weekend. And the next minute, I'm got a couple of hours to prepare myself for going into hospital for a week. So, life happens. And so I think that's one thing. And I had started to delve into self awareness in my 30s. And I had a dear friend, I've got a dear friend, Leslie, and she sort of introduced me to a lot of spiritual practices and things like that. And I did a few workshops that were based on looking at the behaviors in your life that are not serving you well. And so we had to face our judgmental side, our negative side, our controlling side, being a victim, covert comments. When people don't have the courage to say what they really want to say, and they'll do it in an about way, with rather than addressing what being just honest and saying what they really want to say. And so I didn't realize I used to do that quite a lot. Sarcastic sense of humor, all those things, I owned all of them. And when you really look at that, I thought this is not the version of me that I want to be. And so I've worked really, really hard since my 30s to change who I am. And I'm proud of who I am today because I try, I try to lean towards optimism and I falter. I try to not judge. I fail at times, but if I do it, I'll go, oh, that's interesting. That was a little bit judgmental. I'll do better next time. And a big one is not offering opinions until they're asked for. You know, my chapter on that is called Opinions are best served when asked for. And I remember in 2015 when I was going through it again and I went to see some ladies that I worked with, and bless their hearts, I just had everything coming at me, who I needed to see, what I needed to take, what I needed to do. And it is overwhelming when you're in that fear of going through it again. And I got triggered. And so when you get triggered by something, it usually means that if you use the mirror method and turn it back on you, that you do that behavior yourself. And so I came away from there and I felt really annoyed. And I got in the car and I thought, wow, I'm really annoyed. I've been triggered. Okay, let's look at that one. Do I offer opinions when they're not asked for? And I had to go, gosh, I do. Wow. And so then I just really tried very hard, and I still try very hard, to not offer one unless it's asked for. Sometimes people just want to share. They just want to talk. They don't need you to fix it. But it's one that we can just fall into and not realize that we're doing. And so now if I've got a friend sharing, I'll say, well, look, I'm really sorry you're going through that. You haven't asked me what I think, so I'll just listen. And then sometimes I'll go, no, tell me what you think. So then that's an invitation. And the other one is listening. Listening is an art form. That saying, we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And quite often when you're going through this, you will be sharing and people can't help it. Out of care, they go in to fix it. And, sometimes it's just holding the space for you so you can just talk. And it's, if you don't know what to do for someone, ask. Like, people can say to me, what do you need right now? Do you need to sit and watch TV on your own and just chill out? Would you like to just talk and not have anyone talk back? Or would you like to go and do something? Inquire. It's okay. People going through this will usually tell you what they want to do. And so it's just, I think really there's a lot that the support network can learn about supporting that person going through illness or disease. And it's, and then that's really what I wanted to share in the book. It's just the things that I've learned, what's helped me, what hasn't helped me, and just navigating it in the best way that you can.
You did a beautiful job. And you're right, that cancer is not just a catalyst for the person who has the cancer.
No.
It's so much a catalyst for family, for friends, often. Actually, the painting behind me was painted by the husband of someone I coached who had stage 4 largely incurable breast cancer and is now in remission.
Oh, wow.
And her husband went through this massive transformation himself, dark night of the soul, and then came out the other end and had never painted before. And he's painted so many amazing, beautiful paintings. And he gifted that to me as a thank you for supporting his wife. So it never just touches the person who has cancer. It's all the people, around them. And yes, it's such an important message what you've just shared around not trying to fix and just holding space and asking the question. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been, because I think prior to 2024 with the brain tumour, I did a lot of this quietly and privately because I'm not a sharer. I didn't post on Facebook. And so it was only my immediate circle of friends really that knew what I was dealing with day to day. And even with my siblings, and my sister-in-laws, I didn't share everything because you sort of don't want to be the woe is me person. So, but when I had the brain tumour, something switched and I thought, I really want to start sharing my journey. And I think that again is where I started writing and it turned into a book. Was, no, I'm going to share everything now because, and the feedback that I've had since I've started doing that is just, gosh, it's just heartwarming, the people that have it. I'm blessed that it's achieving what I wanted to achieve. And that was just, if I can just help one person, that's all I can hope for. But that's, that painting is beautiful and it made me think of, we're so scared of dying. We're fearful of death. And I find this really such an interesting thing because I've watched quite a lot of podcasts about near-death experiences and things like that. And if you watch them, everyone's story is so similar. But I think in 2015, I read Anita Moorjani's book called Dying to Be Me. And her story is just incredible. she went through a long period of cancer and went into a coma, had a near-death experience, and then over the next couple of weeks she experienced spontaneous healing and all her tumours just disappeared. And because she had realised in that near-death experience that she had lived her life with fear. And fear is the enemy of this, I think, one of the enemies. And so, yeah, it's facing your mortality. And that for most of us is a scary concept.
Yeah. The final piece in your book is a quote. Where did I write it? By Stephen Levine.
Oh, love that one.
To heal is to touch with love that which was previously touched by fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Because I also follow Peter Crone. I love his work. And he says we're either living in the hurt of the past or we're living in the fear of the future. And it really is about living in the moment, because that literally is all we've got. And, you know, we'll go to a funeral and we'll go, oh my gosh, it's so much about, you know, enjoying the moment because we don't know. And then we fall back into day-to-day life and we forget. And then we start worrying about the future and being, you know, upset about the past. And it really is. And so that's one of the things I try really hard to just remind myself, be here right now in this moment.
Yeah.
Because that is all I've got. And so, but yeah, it's to live in love, not to live in fear.
Yes. Yes. So I think it's time to now just maybe complete. Maybe with I was going to actually share it what I saw that I offered you before we started recording. And as I said, when I was with this interview, I thought I don't want it to be inspiring. I actually want it to be paradigm shifting for the person who views this or listens to this podcast. But maybe there's a paradigm shift here for you, potentially from what I shared with you earlier on.
Definitely.
So, do you feel that you could speak to that right now?
Sure. So we were talking about, and this is a thought I have had, who would I be without cancer in my life? Because it's been in my life for so long. And it's a question I do ask myself.
Mm.
And it's such an interesting concept to think about, because I think I would have to redefine myself. I actually, if I'm completely honest, I don't quite know, because it's taught me so much and I have learnt so much about myself, and I am not the person today that I was 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago. And I said to you earlier, like, if someone said to me, we can wipe the whole past 18 years from your life and you won't have gone through any of that, but we'll also take what you've learnt about yourself, I'd go, no, I don't want to lose that.
Wow.
But just, I don't know if I can articulate how you
Yeah,
said
that's
to me.
okay.
If you wouldn't mind.
Yes, that's okay. That's okay. So I just want to say before I go there, like that is the mark of true gratitude. When if you were ever given that option that, you know, we'll wipe the last 18 years of cancer, but we'll also take away all the lessons, and you said, no, I would not. That is the true definition of deep, deep gratitude and awe and reverence for the experience, right? No resistance at all in there. And if there was ever for cancer to not continue staying in your body, it would be because of that, right? So that's number one. I had this thought before we came on, and I shared it with Jules before. I started to wonder why. My question was, why is cancer continuing to be part of your life? And I started to wonder whether, if there is an attachment to the gifts that keep on giving that you continue having through the cancer experience. And if there's an attachment to cancer being the thing that gives you these gifts that keep on giving, is that the reason why cancer continues to appear?
Yeah, I loved that. You put that to me, because I have never looked at it that way. I've looked at it in a way of, like I said to you before, before we started the podcast, was I get caught in the loop. What am I not getting? You know, it's
Yeah.
here to teach me.
Yeah.
What am I not getting? What am I not getting? What am I not seeing? What am I not hearing? And I get into that loop,
Yeah.
but I've never looked at it in the way that you've put that to me, and it's mind blowing.
Yay.
Yeah, it is, and I'm so grateful that you have shared that with me, because I'm going to leave this podcast and I'll be sitting with that, because
Yay.
it's the epiphany. And yeah, like I don't know, but I'm certainly going to play with that now, because I maybe I have got what I've needed to get, and maybe
I
I
feel
am.
that so strongly. Can I tell you? I
Yeah,
feel that
and
so
maybe I am
strongly.
attached to it, and I need to be able to let go. And
Yeah.
I'm a huge advocate for letting go and
Yes.
surrender. I love
Yes.
Michael Singer, and he talks a lot about letting go and surrendering. And Peter Crone says, you know, you might not like where you are right now in your life, whether it's finances, relationship, work, money, whatever, health. So you might not like where you are right now, but can you be okay with it?
Yeah.
And the answer should be yes, I can, because what we resist persists. And so if you're in resistance to your health challenges, resistance to your financial challenges, whatever they are, you'll just keep creating more of that because you're resisting it. And to let go and surrender and trust is the answer. It's not easy to do, but yeah, I'd never thought of this as me being attached to the cancer because of what I've learned and learning from it. And so I'm deeply grateful to you, Giselle, for sharing that with me, because I certainly will be playing with that. And
Awesome.
I'll keep you posted on
Awesome.
what I
Awesome.
find out about it.
Awesome, because
That's
you're a multidimensional girl, right? Remember that. You're a multidimensional girl. You know, you've got this intuition, and we people with intuition, we don't play by the rules of the physical 3D game. We don't play
right.
by the rules of,
Right.
statistic and past evidence. That's not how we play.
Mm.
And the thing that I said to you also was, maybe there's a conversation that you have with your cancer self saying, thank you, thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you for this amazing 18-year journey.
That.
Thank you, thank you. And our job is done.
Mm.
Our job is done, and like really make that decision and
Mm.
have that, conversation, and that like our partnership is complete. Thank you, thank you. And now my job is to discover who I am without the cancer and the gifts that keep on giving from being cancer free.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that, Giselle, and
Yeah.
I'm deeply grateful. And we've talked about the connection that we've formed since we've met, and
Yes.
everyone comes into your life at a time, and they share pivotal things that, like this, are just such huge epiphanies. And I have so many times throughout this journey to be grateful for. And I think this is one of them. And you just sharing that with me, because if I would just love everyone listening to this to realize that they are so much more than their body. There's so much more than their physical self that walks them through life every day. We are powerful beings, and we can achieve anything. But if we're living in fear and doubt and uncertainty, that's not helpful. It's raising your vibration, however you can do it, to be living in love and joy and hope and trust and faith and all those beautiful high vibrational qualities. And so I feel like you sharing that with me, I'm going to come back to this moment in the future and I'm going to say that was a turning point, one of my many turning points. So thank
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I will just put up the book again because I think I misread the title, Dancing with Cancer. I think I said Courage and Cancer, did I? Something like that. Dancing with Cancer. I will put details of your book. I will put details of your website onto the show notes of this podcast episode. And it's just so wonderful to be with you. As I said, may this episode, may your book be paradigm shifting for the people that will be graced by our conversation today, and might be paradigm shifting for you too.
Thank you, Giselle. I've just had so much fun, and it's just been a joy to chat, and I feel like we could just chat for hours.
Exactly.
So really, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for.
Thank you for your generosity.
Oh, my pleasure.
just before we go, I wanted to share some good news that I received from Julie after our episode a few days later. She had an MRI on her brain, and the 4mm tumour in her brain is the same size as it was in June, if not even slightly smaller, and it is stable, and that is good news. Thank you, Julie, and until the next time.